Alrighty guys, today I want to cover a combination that at first glance is going to seem like kind of a hard flex. However, that is in no way, shape, or form my intention. At no point in time do I want to use this channel to brag. Alright, so the combination we're looking at is the AVS Detachable Chest Rig and the AVS 1000 Backpack paired together. Alright, and when you look at this, it's kind of a ludicrous setup. At face value, because you're talking about $440 for the chest rig and $250-ish for the backpack. So you know, it's $700 setup here. However, there's a lot of economy built into this that's kind of hidden by the sticker shock. All right, so that's more so what I want to look at here than a review of any sort. All right, and the reason why I really want to do this right now is because there seems to be this crazy trend of taking chest rigs and marrying them to backpacks so that they become one thing, all right? Which is exactly what I have here. However, I'll try to justify this setup a little bit more. But that concept, I tried that like, I don't know, 15 years ago now and got mocked for it being a stupid idea. And it hasn't really gotten any smarter in those 15 years. All right, so I don't know why it's such a huge trend right now. All right, so let's kind of look through what we're getting with this setup and what it does for us. All right, so the detachable chest rig, according to Crye, can be used as the front plate bag for a AVS plate carrier. The AVS 1000 can be used as the rear plate bag for an AVS plate carrier. However, both of those concepts require you to have an AVS, which is no cheap purchase on its own. All right, that's a pretty significant investment just to be able to use one of these other super expensive things with it. All right, so I a while ago traded for the chest rig, and I bought the backpack because I wanted to play around with it and see what all the hype was about. And then I looked at them and I was like, I don't want to have two half AVS setups laying around, which is kind of the only way that purchase made sense to me, was to split it up. So I looked at putting them together, and with a little bit of work, they go together just fine. All right, so $700, this is what you get. All right, you get a chest rig with an attached backpack, which seems to be all the hotness right now. All right, and they work phenomenally in that setup, unless you're about, I don't know, 140 pounds, maybe 150 pounds. Then you start looking at overall bulk may not physically work for your body shape. All right, but as part of that chest rig, you get 4 double M4 mag pouches here. All right, the front 2 have a fixed flap here. You have to use the flap, or you're going to be contending with the buckle inside of the pouch. All right, these side 2, you can see how the buckle can come out of that. You can use that without the flap and just have the strap there. All right, so whether you wanted to put a radio there or just not have a flap over your mags, that's something that you can do there. Right? You get a Molly bib if you want it over your chest rig, so you can use ATAC or your end user device, or mount push to talks up there, or have an admin pouch, or whatever you want to do. You get that included. All right. A lot of chest rigs right now, they're coming up with that solution as an aftermarket part. All right. What else do we get? We get a GP pocket on each side of this rig. I'll try to center this a little bit more here. A very generously sized GP pocket, all right, which you can have open topped because it has a double zipper. All right, and inside there is some elastic retention on the body side and some elastic retention away from the body. All right, what are those two things for? Well, this is a side plate pocket if you want side plate pockets there. If you don't, you could put a radio in there. or the front side is designed to hold a radio. All right. So we've got that right there, and you seat that in there, and then you can see if we run our zippers up to the top and use the buckle, we can have antennas and wires and everything coming out of there. All right, so these side GP pockets are not only a pocket, but they're also a radio pocket and a side plate pocket. All right, and they're fairly functional at that. And then behind that here, we have kind of an in extremis pistol holster. It will not fit a pistol with a light, but at that point you're really splitting hairs if you're asking for it to do that. But it will fit most pistols just fine if they don't have a light mounted. All right. Over here we have a split front that is not on the actual front, so it's a little bit offset. So if you didn't like that gap on a traditional split front, you do have kind of the side access here, and you've got your little sternum strap, which is kind of a goofy thing, but it does serve a purpose. And then you've got this buckle here. So just like the AVS, you can get into this thing from the side. All right. So there's a lot of hidden value in here. If you look at just the Crye smart pouch system, you've got the 4 M4 mags pouches. You've got, in theory, radio pouches, side plate pouches, and GP pockets. That's several $100s in pockets on there that are mounted on there. Yes, you don't have any say in the configuration really, but Crye's pretty smart with the way they build things, and you got a lot of flexibility. Like if you don't need 6 M4 mags, you can absolutely put a radio in this pocket and it'll fit just fine, and then you've got kind of unhindered utility space on the sides. If you don't want to use anything, it's Crye. It's fairly light construction, and you don't have a whole lot of bulk there that you have to contend with. All right, you have some really nice routing options going up the shoulder straps here. You've got 1 wrap sewn in. You can mount push to talks all the way up here. You can tether in your hydration or whatever you need to, and it's pretty well set up. All right, but also this thing holds plates. All right, so you no longer, if you're a member of that trend of chest rigs with backpacks mounted that then throws them over a plate carrier, you don't have to do that with this. All right, it's all set up, and the only thing you have to change to have a fully functioning plate carrier is to drop your plate in. All right, and Crye did a really nice job on these plate pockets. All right, so if you look at the back of this thing, it has a riser, so if you take the tension out of here, it'll pull the plate up and it'll ride at the correct height, which is pretty cool. All right, and then it can use the harness as well. I don't have a harness set up on here because you kind of need the back plate or a spare harness to do that, and I did not have one. All right. The only thing that you have to change to run these two by themselves is I used a axle micro harness here to make this connection a little bit cleaner. So the side retention loop on the chest rig, it performs better if you can tie it into one of these metal D-rings here. You could go through the cummerbund routing on the back of the AVS, but then you're kind of pulling on that webbing in a goofy sense. All right, and then to look at the AVS here, I think the way they set this up is crazy smart. So there is a pack frame or frame sheet behind the plate in its own sleeve, and they have little cutouts. You can see how the plate dropped because it's got a riser there. They have little cutouts here in that frame sheet, so all of these plate retainers are sewn directly to that frame sheet, and then they're routed out of there. So you actually use the hydration pocket for the plate, and it is such a clean setup in there. But you can see how easily I dropped that plate, and then we'll throw it back in there just to show you how easy that is. You just secure that vertical piece, secure those. 30 seconds we went from not having a plate to having a plate, and the front is just as easy. All right, so the shoulder straps, I have some AVS shoulder pads on here. This is kind of the only kind of janky area of this setup, is both the AVS 1000 strap and the detachable chest rig strap are both kind of banking on having a real shoulder strap going with them. So they're this 1.5 inch kind of webbing here, not even webbing, folded Cordura with Velcro sewn to it. So it's a little flimsy. So you're gonna want some sort of shoulder pad on here just to keep this cleaned up. So you couldn't run like just a core ice vent on here. It would be a little goofy, but you could use a core ice vent with like a JPC sleeve. That would work pretty well, and it would be fairly cheap. And then you kind of got to eat up a lot of strap. There's a little bit of excess strap on each of these compared to traditional shoulder straps. So you can see here, I've got a good bit of overlap there that's not really made it up. But I also try to run my plates as high as possible. So if you're one of those people that doesn't wear a plate carrier correctly anyways, you won't have any issues with that, right? And then the S1000 foam makes everything comfortable. You can kind of see what I was talking about here, where that side strap would have to come through. You'd have to loop it around here and then back on itself, so it would be kind of pulling against those stitches, which would be a little awkward, right, and potentially uncomfortable. But yeah, going from plate to no plate, you pull out your plates, and the only adjustment that you have to make on here is taking some slack out of this connection to adjust for the thickness of the plates. What I thought was pretty cool, I've been playing around with that for a little while, and in all honesty, there is a ton of functionality here if you're willing to deal with having a backpack direct mounted to either your chest rig or your plate carrier. But that seems to be all the hotness right now. And man, you can, if you run the numbers, you can save a good bit of money by just biting the bullet and buying these two options right off the bat.